Was there something that happened that you're like, you know what, this is not who I want to be as a father. Let me improve?
Yes. So it was my own relationship with my own father. I can remember so many times throughout my life as a child how often he did tell me he loved me, but he didn't show it.
My children showed me you do
Right.
something, they do it back. And you're like, why do you do? Oh, you got that from me.
Our children are loaned to us,
Amen.
not necessarily given. They're loaned to us. They're
Yeah.
God's children.
Yeah.
And so they're loaned to us to raise.
What is your
Yeah.
thing that you're striving to be as a dad or father? And then what's your definition of what that looks like?
I am not a perfect father. 26 years in, and I'm still not perfect. I still mess up constantly. And I still have to turn and say, I'm sorry that I reacted that way. I'm sorry that that happened.
Welcome to the High Performance Human Podcast, where high achievers learn to master themselves, not just their success. I'm Creighton Bertrand, a certified high performance coach, here to share practical tools to rewire your habits and mindset. If you're ready to move beyond good enough and step into real transformation, you're in the right place. Let's get to work.
What does it really mean to be a dad? Not the highlight reel, but the messy, imperfect, everyday reality. And that's what we dig in today. My guest today is Bryan Ward, a Marine veteran, certified running coach, and the host of the Dad Up podcast. He's had conversations with hundreds of fathers about what does it mean to show up, fail forward, and keep growing. And today he opens up about his own story, the wounds from his dad, the mistakes he's made with his boys, the lessons he's learned from the Marines, and how he broke free from alcohol to become the present, intentional father that his kids needed. We talk about the suck of being human, the temptation to let feelings of failure define us, and the choice to persevere when it would be easier to just give up. If you've ever felt like you're falling short as a parent, if you've ever questioned whether you're doing it right, if you've ever wondered how to keep showing up when you feel like you're running on empty, then this episode is just for you. All right, Bryan. Well, welcome to the show. I'm so excited to get the host of the Dad Up podcast on the show to talk about what it's like to be a dad. Welcome to the
Yeah.
show, brother.
Thanks very much for having me on, man. Excited to be here, excited to do this, and glad that we got a chance to meet and connect and all that kind of stuff. And I know we were chopping it up before the episode, but it sounds like you and I kind of have similar backgrounds. I mean, obviously we're both dads, so
I think commonality through dadism is always the best thing.
I
Go
do
ahead.
say this. I do say that you cannot explain what it's like to be a dad to a non-dad. You just can't. There's just no you just can't explain what it's like to be a dad, the love that you have for your kids. You can't explain that until that individual becomes a dad themselves. So
So, with that, I know you have two sons. They're older and out of the house. I have my own theory on this, and not to call you out, but what have you found from having other hosts or other guests on your show that are dads? I feel that, yes, I agree. Once you have a dad, you get to experience love in a way that you didn't even know was possible, and a selflessness to your children that you didn't
mhm.
know even really existed in you. But I actually found having a daughter took that to even another level. Have you ever heard anyone else say that?
I have, and I wish that I could have that comparison because I can't. I've got two
Okay, yeah.
boys, and both my boys are very masculine. So
Oh,
I have two boys, and unfortunately, I can't compare myself to an individual that's got daughters.
hmm.
However, I have several nieces.
Okay.
And one of the cool things that I like to do every once in a while, because my nieces are busy, they're all adults now. They're not married yet, don't have kids. They're all younger adults, but taking them to breakfast to catch up.
Mm.
And one of the things that I like to do with my wife that my nieces and I have been trying to coordinate our schedules so we could do this together is going and getting our nails done. I
Cute.
get pedicures and manicures all the time. When my wife goes to get her pedicures done, I am there. It is always a yes from me. She just tells me, hey, I'm going this Saturday at 2 o'clock. So she knows. And it's so funny because they know me down there now.
Oh, wow.
that if she does end up going without me, they always ask her, "Where's your husband? Where's your
Mm,
husband?" I'm a big fan of manicures and pedicures, and so I've been trying to get my nieces to coordinate that. But I say all that in that just my love for my nieces, I have that shared experience where I would do anything for them as an uncle.
mhm.
I would do anything for them, but I wish I could compare to having my own daughter because I can't.
Have you noticed any other fathers that come to the show or dads mention something similar that they say that it's a different
It is a
love?
way different level of love. It's amazing. Like my boys, there'll be people that'll probably dispute this, but I argue to my death on this. I am a firm believer in you can be a parent and a friend to your child. And my boys, now 26 and 23, are two of my best friends. And I hear from dads that have daughters how much they're wrapped around the little girl's finger. That's what I always hear is that
Mm-hmm.
same commonality, that phrase, that term, like wrapped around their finger. She's got me hooked.
Right.
And I wish I had that experience. My wife does too. My wife wishes we'd had at least one girl, and we would never ever take back having two boys. She just, we had some complications with both our pregnancies, and that's why we elected. God gave us two beautiful children, and we elected to just stop right then. Otherwise, we would have kept going, and
Mm.
my wife would have continued until she got her girl.
Well, thanks to God for allowing you to have the two that you got and not continuing to be
Yeah,
too greedy and change everything. So,
yeah, and I'm
yeah.
afraid I would be a little too strict with my daughter.
No,
I
they'll
think I would
soften.
be protective of overprotective, I think.
I'd love to hear your experience because I think we can go right into the topics of like, I think when I had my kids, and it was very similar to digressing a little bit, but when we had our dog, when we got our first dog, we were like, okay, we want to do this right. We want to be perfect. All these things. So we watched Caesar Milan and we read all the books and we put the dog in a crate and we put him in the garage and we put a clock in there to simulate its mom's heartbeat. We thought we were doing all the right things. And then you realize how stupid you really are. And I feel like it was the same thing once we had our kids. Like, okay, we're going to do it this way. And then once we get to the third, we're just like, oh my God, what were we thinking?
Right,
So I feel like you would have done the same thing of like, okay, yeah, I'm going to be so strict on my daughter. I'm going to do this. And one of my favorite things that I think my dad's ever told me is I think he's totally right that God gives you children to finish what your parents couldn't, because I really do believe, at least for me and in my experiences, my children showed me because they're mirrors, right? You do
right,
something, they do it back. And you're like, why do you do? Oh, you got that from me, or you see
right,
that from mom. So I think if you're coming into it with curiosity of how can I learn, how can I get better, instead of I'm right, you're wrong, you're broken, I'm right, it'll change everything. So I feel like I mean, you can have me on your show, I'll talk all about my stuff, but like I totally changed my life because of my daughter. And if it wasn't for her, then I would have just kept being the same, living the same life. So I really do believe that God gave me all the gifts that I've been given to shape me into the man that he knew I was capable of becoming, but I couldn't see it in
right.
myself.
Right. Yeah, I think that's true. I think that there's certain blessings that God gives us, and I'm a firm believer and it's not necessarily a religious show, but I'm a firm believer in that, our children are loaned to us,
Amen.
not necessarily given. They're loaned to us. They're
Yeah.
God's children.
Yeah.
And so they're loaned to us to raise.
Mm,
And they take traits from each of us and
mm,
build those into their own lives. And then when they get older and start to build those, then they have their own traits when they have kids that, carries on through the years as far as the family tree goes. But yeah, I do think that there are particular areas of our life or my life that I go, wow, he made me realize, like my younger son, for example,
mm.
he's 23 years old. He's sensitive, but firm, but would do anything for you if you asked him. Like he'll take the shirt off his back. He will listen to you if you need to talk. And I was not raised by my parents with that being acceptable. So having a very open, sensitive conversation with my parents,
Mhm.
just something I wasn't comfortable doing. And I think it was probably through having him, that he made me realize it's okay for us as men to be open and share how we're feeling. And it's okay to be sensitive to certain things and certain emotions. So, yeah. And then my older son's the complete opposite. He can be sensitive, yes, but he's more of kind of in your face. This is the nuts and bolts of it, and put your nose to the grindstone and get to work kind of guy. You know what I mean? So that I already had in me. He's like my twin. So
Right.
that I
Yeah.
already had in me. But my younger son teaching me that, yeah, it's okay to allow us to wear our emotions on our sleeves and be sensitive to conversations, and be open, and share our feelings. It's okay to do that. And you can still be masculine doing that.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yes. And see, that's, I do believe that, God gives us the children's to shape us into what we're actually capable, not just what we're comfortable or familiar with.
Right.
So I'm curious, and to go into more of your experience, but what do you feel? I love to define things because, one person's interpretation of another can totally be different. But what do you define for yourself? Obviously, you have wisdom beyond my years of fatherhood. My daughter's only 11, so that's as far as my wisdom go. What is your definition of being, you know, the type of dad? I don't know what type of words you want to use, like a good dad or a present father. What is your
Yeah.
thing that you're striving to be as a dad or father? And then what's your definition of what that looks like?
Yeah. Well, I can tell you what we're not. We're
Okay.
not perfect.
Yeah.
So I am not a perfect father, even 26 years in, so I'm pretty much a veteran when it comes to being a dad. 26 years in, and I'm still not perfect. I still mess up constantly, and I still have to turn and say, I'm sorry
Mm.
that I reacted that way. I'm sorry that that happened, or I'm sorry that I didn't respond the way that you wanted me to respond, or I'm sorry that I forgot this. So I'm still messing up constantly. So being perfect is not going to happen. So any dad out there that's watching, listening to this, any mom out there that's watching, listening
Mm.
to this, you are not going to be a perfect parent, period.
Mm.
So we have one perfect father, and he's the one that's looking down on us. So
Amen.
that's it. So for me, when I'm thinking about, as far as what it means to be a dad, or what it takes to be a dad, I think that one of the most important things that you can have as a father to your child is love.
Mm.
And along with that love, along with that love, you mentioned it, being present. So I refer to it as time.
Mm.
And so love and time go hand in hand. And what I mean by that is, and I've said this many times on my show, but kids spell love Time.
Mm.
And it's that time that you spend with them, devoted time that you spend with them, where that true bond and love really happens. And so, as a father, that's what being really an effective, true dad means to me, as far as it goes, is the love that you share with your kids and the time that you spend with them, because they go hand in hand.
I love that. And I think that that's so spot on that, we're all striving to have love and give our kids love. And how do we do that? We do that by time, because when we give them time, then we create connection. And
Uh-huh.
going back to what you said at the beginning, you want to influence someone. The only way you can influence is with a relationship, with connection, which then goes back to how much time have you
Right.
given to that person. So,
Right. Yeah, you can't build a connection with anybody in your
no.
life if you're not spending time with them. When it comes to your spouse, when it comes to your work, whatever it is you do, your business that you're trying to run, or your employer that you're trying to answer to, if you don't have a connection with them, then there's no relationship there.
Yeah. I always like to use the analogy of, like, if you're walking down the street and you see some bum or just someone on the street, you don't have any connection with them because you haven't given them any time. But
Right.
then I think the way to really trump and expedite connection is what you were talking about with love, of being vulnerable. And you nailed it. I loved hearing you say this at the beginning, that you said, yeah, I failed so many times with my children, but I can already tell that you're a good dad. And I'm not just saying that to boost you, because you apologize and you acknowledge your shortcomings. And,
Hmm.
we said we didn't want to talk so much about faith, but like literally that's what the Bible's all about, of
Right.
repenting, acknowledging your sin and ask for forgiveness. For that is how you're going to get true love. So,
Right.
and I,
Yeah. No, I was just going to say, when you talk about being a good dad, I'm not going to be shy about saying I'm a good dad. I'm a great dad. I really believe I've done what I was supposed to do as a dad. Like I said earlier, I've made mistakes. I still make mistakes. Did I mess up along the way? Did I learn a lot of things along the way that helped me change and get better? Yes, of course. But that's how we grow. We have to have those things happen to us in our life to help us grow. And if you don't learn from those things and you continue to go down the same pattern, then yeah, you're going to eventually ruin that relationship that you have with your child or
yeah,
children. And so you have to learn from that stuff. So yeah, it took me years of learning the things that I needed to do right in order to really start to build that real true connection and love with my boys.
yeah, and I think you kind of hit it on the head of, you said that you have to grow. And I think a lot of us, and I'll say myself, when I first started parenting, I read the books, I knew. And if we go through life with certainty, we don't leave any opportunity to learn anything, right?
Right.
If I come into this conversation saying, Bryan, I know, then I'm not willing to learn. And I think so many of us are failing in so many parts of our life because we're assuming that we know. And when you
Mhm.
do that, you're not allowing yourself to grow. So,
And that also works with regret. So the same thing applies there in that if you're not willing to grow or you're not trying to grow or be better as a dad or a parent,
yes,
okay, because it goes for moms too. I compare it, like I just had a mom on my show yesterday. So
that's awesome.
even though it's a dad podcast, my mom's on my show too. But because it's a parenting relationship, right?
Yeah.
So if you aren't willing to grow, then what happens? You start to build regrets later on in life. So I always tell people that I talk to about, when I get to my last few days and I know I'm about to go meet my Heavenly Father, I want to be able to say I have no regrets. I did everything that I was trying to do
Mm,
as a dad, as a husband, as a friend, as a brother, as a son. I was doing everything I was trying to do, and I have no regrets of my life. And if you are not willing to grow, trust me, my friends, you will
mm,
have regrets later
yeah,
on.
I love that. And what do you think it is like the biggest mindset or characteristic or things someone should be striving for in order to open themselves up to grow? In case they're hearing this, they're like, oh, yeah, that sounds great, Bryan. Like, I want to grow too. How do I grow?
So you need to start building connections with people around you that are like-minded, that are
Mm,
dads. So I can't be a dad. Let's say I'm a brand new dad, right?
okay.
I'm a brand new dad. I got a couple small kids. I'm trying to build this relationship with them. And yet I've got 4 or 5 buddies of mine that are not dads, that are wanting to go party and want to go do all the, you know what I mean? So
I've been there, done that. Yeah.
I can't learn what it's like to be a dad by hanging out with those jokers, right?
Right.
Doesn't mean you can't have them as friends, but they're not going to be the role models that I need to attract myself to in order to learn how to grow and
Hmm.
become better. So I have to get around like-minded people, and like-minded people means other dads. So what I did, one of the easiest things that I did with my boys is I started learning from my father-in-law and my own dad. So
Mm,
I took the history, the experiences of my own life, good and bad, and said, okay, this is the good, this is the bad. This is what I want to do because this is good. This is what I don't want to do because I found this being bad. As a child, I found these experiences as bad. So I don't want to raise my son that way. I want to raise my son this way. So then I took my father-in-law and did the same thing. What's the good and the bad of how he raised his kids? And I went, okay, I want these things, qualities in my life because those are good, and these other areas are not so good in my opinion. So I'm not going to raise my boys that way. And then once I started doing that and building that kind of connection with my boys, because they're now, babies and toddlers, starting to learn that process. Then when they start to build connections with other people, meaning other kids, play dates, things like that, then I started coaching sports
mm.
because I know when you're coaching sports, there's a lot of other dads out there,
Yeah.
and you're going to learn a lot, good and bad, hanging out with all those other dads. And I have a ton of friends that were all coaches. And I coached from when my boys were 4 years old all the way up through high school. I
Wow.
coached their teams, basketball, football, baseball, I did not coach soccer. I can't stand soccer.
Whoa. We gotta go. Gotta go.
Sorry.
Gotta go.
I just can't, I just never could get into it. And my older
Whoa.
son played 1 year of soccer. He was actually a phenomenal goalie. And he was like, can't do it. He was
Mm.
like 10 years old. He's like, Dad, I can't do it. I can't play another year. I'm done. I don't like soccer. I'm like, okay,
Well,
what do you
goalie,
want to,
yeah. No one wants
what do
to
you
be
want to do?
goalie.
Well, he was really good though.
Yeah.
That's what's insane. He was really good. I was like, all right, what's your sport? He's like, I just want to stick to basketball. Okay.
Mm. Well,
So
so you guys
anyways,
must have height. That must be the benefit on,
so I'm 5'10".
yeah.
My sons are 6'4".
See, yeah, of course. No wonder why they didn't like soccer. They had
So,
options.
so yeah,
The
so
rest
they
of
were,
us don't have those options. So
yeah, so
we are like, yeah, I'll take soccer.
they towered over me by the time they were a sophomore in high school. They
Wow.
towered over me. I was then the third shortest in my family,
Wow.
out of the four of us. So,
Wait, so take me back I love what you were saying of you went and kind of took stock in your life, wanting to get around other dads.
right.
Usually when people want to implement some sort of change in their life, it was, because of some sort of hardship or some moment of that they had some sort of intervention or a crisis. Was there something that happened that you're like, you know what, this is not who I want to be as a
Mhm.
father. Let me improve.
Yes. So it was my own relationship with my own father. Now,
Oh,
I
beautiful.
have a relationship with my father. I love
Hmm.
my father. He loves me. He tells me all the time how proud he is of me and how
Oh,
much he loves
beautiful.
me. I can remember so many times throughout my life as a child how often he did tell me he loved me, but he didn't show it.
Or he didn't show it the way that you wanted, probably.
He didn't show it in the way that I wanted. So he
Yeah.
was not present.
Hmm.
So when he was home, he was working in the garage, working on cars, working on projects, or watching the news. There was very little time for me.
Hmm.
When I played sports growing up, I played a ton of soccer
Oh,
growing
wow.
up.
There we go.
I played soccer, I played baseball, I was on the water polo team, I was on the swim team, I was on the wrestling team,
Oh,
and I
wow.
can count on one hand how many events, games, or whatever events that my parents came to.
Hmm.
One hand, I can count.
Hmm.
They didn't go to my games. They didn't go to my practices. I used to ride to games and practices with my friends' parents
Hmm.
because my parents just didn't go. And parent teacher conferences, open houses, field trips. I didn't do any of those things with my parents. And I hated every bit of it.
Hmm.
I used to be jealous of my friends who had parents that were so involved. And so I knew at a very young age, if I did have kids, which I wasn't certain I was going to, but if I did have kids, that I would not raise my boys or my kids that way. I would be an involved dad.
Okay.
So that's where it stems from.
So you had it before you even had kids. It wasn't while you were
No, I
in
knew
the
this
kid threshold.
early in high school. I knew this. Early in
Yeah.
high school, I didn't even know if I wanted kids
Yeah.
and wasn't even sure if I wanted to get married.
Mm.
But my wife convinced me. So
Smart woman.
so anyways, but yeah, I knew very early on. That was my experience. So that's what I meant by saying I take the good and the bad.
Yeah.
So that was the bad part. I knew that I was not going to go down that road. I didn't want to be that dad.
Right.
And because I have a great relationship with my dad right now, a great relationship. Is it the best? No. Is it what it should be? Absolutely not. And is there still resentment from me and how he raised me? I'm 52 years old.
Mm.
Even at 52 years old, there's still resentment in me of
Mm.
how he raised me or the things that he did or didn't do that I felt had an impact on our relationship.
Have you ever had a moment to kind of open that up and talk to him about,
I've told him on my show he wasn't a great dad.
oh, wow.
So, and he acknowledges it.
Oh, wow. Well,
So he
doesn't
was
that
on,
suck? I feel like that sucks when I know for me and some of the stuff I've done of like, okay, fine, I'm going to confront them. Because we always think like, okay, once I confront them and punch them in the face, essentially, it's going to make things better.
well, it took a lot of, I'm a firm, big believer in therapy.
Same.
And I still see a therapist regularly. My wife and I have a marriage coach that we go to regularly. She's the same lady, but I see her individually, and my wife and I go to her together.
Hmm.
And it's not because I have problems, it's so I don't have problems.
It's
And
almost like
so,
the same reason why, like people always ask me the same thing. They're like, you go to a therapist, everything seems fine. I'm like, I go to the gym to maintain what I have too. Like,
right.
you don't, it's
That's
not a one
exactly
and
my
done.
point. It's like
Yeah.
we, professional athletes have coaches. Well, they're
Yeah.
freaking professional. They're at the top, the elite level. Why do they need a coach?
Right.
Well,
To
because
stay
they still
there.
need a coach. And guess what? They have private coaches too.
Yeah.
So yeah, they want to make sure that they stay at that level. So the same reason my wife and I want to make sure that we don't have any hiccups in our relationship, we want to make sure we're talking to somebody about how things are going.
Right.
And guess what? You'll be amazed at how many times we've got into those sessions and one of us has thought of something
Mm.
and we talk about it.
I feel like mine was always the opposite. We would go into our sessions. My wife and I, we almost got a divorce after 7 years, and I'm so grateful that we worked through it. But after that, we repaired and whatever, everything seemed to be good. And we'd go into a session, be like, oh, we'd be walking, holding hands, going to set, like, is there anything you want to talk about today? And we're like, no, everything's great. And then we get in there and start to talk, and we didn't realize that there was something
Right.
that was below. So that's what I loved about
Yeah.
it. It was an opportunity to check in.
So our therapist actually told us that. She's like, do you guys want to come back again, like in a couple months? Like, because we're like, no, 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 no. No, we'll keep the same schedule. Are you sure?
Mm.
Like, because we were like that. We're like, everything's good. This is going on. This has been happening with the family, blah, 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 but we would have those moments where it'd be like, the other day I was really thinking this way, and my wife would go, I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that
Yeah.
because that's kind of important. So, anyways, I know we kind of went off on a little sidebar
No.
there, but when it comes to that sort of thing, yeah, it was eye-opening for me to talk to my therapist about how I was going to approach my dad. And she was telling me for a long time, you need to do this, you need to do this, you need to do this. I have tried to have conversation with both my parents at the same time, separately, but at the same time in a separate forum. And I found it challenging. And I found it confrontational.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I asked my dad to be on my podcast, he'd never been on a podcast before. He was excited.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad, I let him know, I don't remember the exact words I used because it was years ago. I don't remember the exact words. I don't know if I said, you were a terrible father. I don't think I said that.
Yeah.
But I think I phrased it in a way that where he understood what I was trying to say without trying to say it.
Mm-hmm.
And he let me know on that episode, like how sorry he was for the way that he lacked his father skills or ability, the things that he lacked as a father. He let me know how much he apologized for that. But here's the thing. When you go this far in your life and you haven't developed that type of relationship with your child, and you get this late in life, sometimes it can be almost too far gone. Now, like I said, I have a great relationship with my dad. I love my dad. He loves me. I could call him right now and talk to him about something. He would answer the phone. I mean, I have that relationship, but I'm not going to go out of my way seeking his approval. I'm not going to go out of my way seeking his attention. I'm not going to go out of my way seeking his advice. I'm going to look for other ways first because I don't have, in my opinion, that connection.
Yeah.
And I know for my boys that I have that connection with them at 26 and 23. They're two of my best friends. I know they could call me right now and they know I would answer my phone. They could call me right now and ask me for advice and I would give them advice. Now, they don't have to take my advice because they're both grown adults. They can do what they want. But they also know this is my experience. You do you, kid. This is what I tell them. This is my experience dealing with that. Here's how you handle it. What do you want to do? And I let them make the decision. And then I tell them what could or could not happen by the decisions they're going to make. And so anyways, when it comes to my dad, yes, I had to kind of approach it gently on my podcast. And it was a very powerful podcast. He got very emotional on the show. He broke down on the show. So it was pretty touching.
That's beautiful. Do you know what you think that, and I don't know if you talked to him on the podcast, of asking him what kind of a relationship did he want to have with you growing up? Like, was that even something that was on his mind of like, oh my gosh? Because again, he could just be, and this is one thing that helped me a lot is realizing, people only know what they know. The only reason why I understand physics and structural stuff is because I went to school and I learned this through engineering. So I realized that my dad only learned from what his dad. And so when I noticed the way that his dad dadded or parented him, he did so much better. But the sad thing is, and it kind of hurts that I was needy that I needed even more, even though he was leaps and bounds beyond what his father was. I still demanded leaps and bounds beyond what he did. But
Okay.
in his mind, I think a lot of us do this, like, oh, well, I came home for this and I did this. Like in their mind, oh, by doing this, this is me showing you love. But going back to what you're saying, the way I needed love was like telling me he was proud, telling me that I was doing good, telling me these
Right.
things. But his was like, well, I bought you a shoe that
Right.
one time. That was it. That was me. And this is what always drives me crazy is most people don't know how to effectively communicate, especially if you're going to therapy. We realize we do this so many times in our lives of like,
Right.
instead of just being like, hey, here's a shoe, we could
Hmm.
say, hey, I got this shoe because I really love you and I want you to feel that love. Like, what? Whoa. But instead, we're all cowards because we're afraid of being vulnerable. And if we're vulnerable, that person can reject us and that'll really
Yeah.
hurt.
Yeah. I think it's important for dads to really figure out what their child's love language is,
Yes.
because mine was affirmations, and mine was that connection with my dad through affirmations, and he did just the opposite. Now,
Yeah.
my dad acknowledged without he acknowledged in a roundabout way, explaining his relationship with his father. And there were things that he mentioned on my show that I wasn't even aware of.
Hmm.
And this was a couple years ago, So there was things that I was like, wow, I didn't realize that was the kind of relationship that you had with your dad. He
Hmm.
had a very abusive father. He had
Yeah.
a father. I do know that my grandfather died of alcoholism, but I was very young when I met him. I was 3 or 4 when I
Mm.
met him, and that was the last time I ever saw him.
Wow.
So I met him, from what I remember, I met him once. And that was because my dad despised him because of
Hmm.
how he was raising him, how he raised him and his 2 brothers and sisters. He had 3 other siblings. So he was abused, not sexually, he was physically abused,
Hmm.
verbally abused. That's what my dad grew up with.
Right.
So my dad tried to correct that by telling me things like, I love you every
Right.
day. But when it comes to the affirmations,
Hmm.
he was living through his dad's eyes, because I could bring home straight A's and have one B, and my dad would rip me a new one for that one B
Hmm.
instead of seeing all the A's I had. And I still had a B, you know what I mean?
Right.
So he would rip me a new one for that. And it was just, I mean, that's just a small example,
Yeah.
but I could never be good enough. He always wanted me to be better, but he, instead of trying to build me up, all he did was break me down
Right. But I
through
don't
his
think that
through
was
his
probably his intent. Like
No, that is not his intention.
his
That's what I'm saying. That's what
yeah.
he knew. That is
Right.
exactly what he knew, and that's how he thought he was supposed to do it.
Right. And
And
isn't that
so,
so sad that so many of us are doing similar things and we're like he thought he was loving you. He was coming from a place of what I want Bryan to be better than I was. I want to be better than what my dad was. So based upon the information that I have, I'm going to try to do this. And then we go out and do this and then realize that, oh my gosh, that was totally terrible and totally wrong. Like it's
yeah,
almost you're damned if you do, you're damned if you
right.
don't.
So yeah, I mean, the ability to connect with our kids and develop that relationship starts when they're in the womb. That's when that relationship starts. And my dad didn't get that picture.
Yeah.
And even it didn't happen until after I got out of high school that I think he realized the mistakes that he made
Mm.
and tried to correct them through
Yeah.
affirmations and things like that. And like I said, now I see him every so often, and I'm going to see him in a couple weeks again. And
Mm.
so every so often I see him, and he constantly is telling me how proud he is of me. So
Wow.
those are those affirmations that I needed when I was 10,
Yeah.
not when I'm 52. I don't
Right.
need you to tell me you're proud of me. I could give, excuse my language, I could give two
Yeah.
shits if you're proud of me. I'm a
Right.
grown ass man, and I'm doing what I think I need to do to survive.
Right.
So, but that's the hard truth. That's what he's trying to do right now. And I
Right.
respect that. He's trying to do it. I get it. I
Yeah.
get what he's trying to do.
Yeah.
But when it comes to my own boys, I knew I'm going to figure out what their love language is. And if it is words of affirmation, I'm going to make sure I drill it into them. And that's exactly what they needed. They didn't need gifts. They needed time. They needed love. They needed affirmations.
Right.
And so one of the things that I implemented with them when they were very, very young is I told them, you're a leader, you're a champion.
Mm.
And I told them, I want you to repeat back to me, I'm the best in the world.
Mm.
And every single day I drilled that into their head. You're a leader, you're a champion. And they'd go, I'm the best in the world. Now at 3, they may not have understood what that meant. At 16, you're damn right they did.
Yeah.
So my older son is very successful in the things that he does right now, working for Charles Schwab. He's very successful. My younger son, he got a freaking college basketball degree to play college ball, and right now is living sports life. He doesn't play sports anymore, but he's living a sports life. He works for Ontario Reign right now. So they're achieving things that make me proud. And I'm a firm believer that it's because of the affirmations that I drilled in their heads. And I guarantee you that if I had my boys on this show right now with me, if I said, you're a leader, you're a champion, they would still to this day say it. Still, I'm the best in the world. Now, is that a stretch? Of course it is. But I want them to really firmly believe that they can achieve anything that they ever want to achieve in life.
For sure.
And so I started drilling that in their heads when they were very, very young.
Yeah. It's hard for me not to go into coaching when I'm hearing stuff like this. Like I really want to dissect and go deeper into your dad's stuff but I think that it's so beautiful that you can kind of understand and see where he was coming from. And I think it's so beautiful to see that he's doing the best that he can to try to repair the damage that he's done, and that you guys are still continuing to try to have a relationship. Because I mean, I think it was so easy for me to judge and blame my dad for all these things, and not see what he was trying to do. And like, because I think when we do that, we're saying, and not to bring too much faith, that we're perfect and that we can't see our own sin in someone else. But when we see this, we're just like, oh my gosh, I failed as a father so many times. I would hope my kids would appreciate and accept my apology of coming and saying, hey man, I know that I did wrong. I know this, but like, I'm going to try my best to do and be there and all the things. So
no, I think you're right. And I think, my dad's doing everything he can, probably not being so intentional about it. Like he's not like making it over the top sound silly,
right.
But he wants to make sure I understand what he's trying to do. And I get it. But like I said, I don't need another grown man's approval right now.
No.
I live under one man's approval, and that's my heavenly father. I don't need another man's approval. But when it comes to my boys, I do actually need their approval. If they're 2 grown adults, but I want them to call me out on my BS. I want them to go, I didn't like how you responded to me there. I felt very disrespected, and I'll be like, yo, I'll back up. I did not come across that. I did not mean to come across that way. I'm really sorry. And so, so I want my boys to have that relationship with me, and they do because of my relationship with them as they grew up. They knew that we could have those conversations and it would be okay.